Hey ladies and gents, welcome to week 5 of our fabulous lit class, and welcome to the first day of February. Hooray! We made it through January. Woohoo! Alright, so let's take a look at our readings for this week. We're going to be starting with Langston Hughes, who has some really excellent stuff here. If you enjoyed the inaugural poetry, some people are drawing comparisons between some of her poetic style and some of Hughes' poetic style, which is kind of cool to see connections to historical poets being made even today with our current poetry leaders. Also, if you enjoyed the inaugural poetry, Amanda will be performing a poem for the Super Bowl as well. So, of course, once that goes up, we'll probably have a discussion board because it's really cool to be a part of this moment in history where poetry is being celebrated on the forefront like this. Never before has a poet been asked to perform at Super Bowl. I mean, I've watched a bunch of Super Bowls and never, ever has any poetry taken place. So, cool stuff. So when that happens, expect a discussion board because we're definitely going to talk about that. So this week, though, focus on the present. Here we go. We're going to be reading Langston Hughes. I will be posting a recorded lecture about Langston Hughes, hopefully by this afternoon for you, so you can really familiarize yourself with some of the things that make him unique as a poet. His voice is one of the prominent ones in African American community poetry, just because he was incredibly influential in the way that he helped inspire and shape poets who came after him. He was also incredibly influential in the way that he talked about America, in the way he talked about our history, our present, and his hopes for the future. So lots of really good stuff coming our way. We also get to do some work with E.E. Cummings. So fun. E.E. Cummings, you will notice as you read through this poet's work, doesn't like punctuation or capitalization or anything. So on page 966 of your book, I'm going to grab this hulking thing out, 966. Should have put a bookmark in it before I started recording the video. You live and you learn. These things are good. All right, E.E. Cummings wrote some really fun stuff. And one of my favorite poems of E.E. Cummings is Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town, because it has a really fun rhythm to it. And despite the fact that it has very little punctuation and things are not at all capitalized, which is weird for us, right? It's kind of fun because it's so incredibly open-ended. And so I'll be doing some work with E.E. Cummings, and I'll record a lecture for you guys too, probably on Wednesday, talking about Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town. But I just want to give you like a little teaser for it. So the first line goes, anyone lived in a pretty how town, with up so floating many bells down. Spring, summer, autumn, winter, he sang his didn't, he danced his did. Women and men, both little and small, cared for anyone, not at all. They sowed their isn't, they reaped their same. Sun, moon, stars, rain. Children guessed, but only a few, and down they forgot as up they grew. Autumn, winter, spring, summer, that no one loved him more by more. When by now and tree by leaf she laughed his joy, she cried his grief. Bird by snow and stir by still, anyone's any was all to her. Someone's married their everyone's, laughed their cryings and did their dance, sleep, wake, hope, and then they said their nevers, they slept their dream. Stars, rain, sun, moon, and only the snow can begin to explain how children are apt to forget to remember with up so floating many bells down. One day anyone died, I guess, and no one stooped to kiss his face. Busy folk buried them side by side, little by little, and was by was. All by all and deep by deep, and more by more they dream their sleep. No one and anyone earth by April, wish by spirit, and if by yes. Women and men, both dong and ding, summer, autumn, winter, spring, reaped their sowing and went their came, sun, moon, stars, rain. So the poem seems to be complete and utter nonsense, right? Did I sound like a crazy person when I read it? I kind of did. So tune in on Wednesday for a good recorded lecture on what E.E. Cummings was trying to say there and how this poem can actually be really, really fun, depending on how you interpret it. So cool stuff coming Wednesday. Just wanted to give you that little trailer. And then we do have some fun work coming our way. And fun being a relative term, more fun than boring stuff. We want to make some poetry visual. So for this assignment that you're going to be doing, I want you to engage more closely with a poem. So while poetry is meant to be heard, and I've read some poems aloud to you on our PowerPoints, we can also visualize these poems because most of our poets try really hard to paint a picture for us, right? They're using a lot of descriptive language to engage our senses and help us experience the thing that the poet was experiencing. Some of our poems tell a story, like Robert Frost. Some have dialogue. Some just give us an image, like Fog, right? By Ginsberg. So this assignment will take the place of a traditional essay. You don't have to write an essay. You get to do visual stuff. Yay. So I want you to think more deeply about a specific poem and illustrate the poem in a unique and creative way. So I want you to create a creative product. You're going to select a poem, and if you don't have one that you already have in mind, I have a random wheel picker for you. Yay, it's like a game. So you click spin the wheel. It's spinning. Which poem will I get? We don't know. Good heavens, this spins for a long time, doesn't it? All right. Ooh. Yay. So this one says, I have to do a visualization of anyone lived in a pretty how town, which I'm super down for. And you would be too after Wednesday when you get the lecture. So spin the wheel, see which poem you're going to work with, and then pretend you are a creative editor at a magazine or a TV station or whatever works best in your brain. And your task will be to develop a deeper understanding of the poem and then bring it to life visually. So there's lots of ways to do this. You could hand draw something, take a picture and upload it as a PDF. You could create a picture collage that illustrates different parts of the poem. You could film a video if you wanted to kind of act out the poem and how it works. You could create a pretend Instagram story that shows how the poem develops, like those different slides we do in our Instagram stories. Don't make an Instagram, obviously, because I won't be able to access it, but like show those little pictures, maybe make it look like Instagram, upload it as a PDF. You could make a PowerPoint slideshow that illustrates the poem with some sound or some video clips, or knock yourself out with memes, because those are fun. Clearly, I like those. You could draw a comic book strip. You could really do anything. The world is your oyster, right? So have fun with this. If I were to do Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town as a visual, I think I would make it a comic book strip where each of the stanzas would be a different square. And I would try and draw what I thought was happening in each of those stanzas. So the first one, Anyone Lived in a Pretty How Town, with up so floating many bells down, spring, summer, autumn, winter, he sang his didn't, he danced his did. I would draw maybe like a random little town and a little dude dancing and singing out in front of it with like the seasons happening, like summer with the sunshine and winter with a little snowflake or something like that. So that'd be my first square. And the next one would follow the next stanza. So I would try and show the progression of this character as he lives his life and gets married and dies and gets buried throughout the poem, which is what's happening. Woohoo! If you weren't sure what was happening in the poem, it's about a guy who falls in love and then dies and gets buried side by side with the woman he loves. And it's very interesting. So we'll talk about that more on Wednesday. So you're going to be creating a visual of some kind. There are endless ways you can do this, like literally endless. However you want to do it is awesome. Just invest the time, make it as cool as you can. And I do want you to provide the title and the author of the poem you're doing, because sometimes I can't tell. So not that that would happen with you guys. I'm sure it'll be very clear. But do make sure to include the title of the author of the poem. And let's see. You don't need to learn a brand new skill. Just do what you already know how to do. If you want to learn something new, awesome. But do your best there. You can take photos, make a movie, sing a song if you want to. So many things you can do. And then the formalities. In addition to the visual thing I'm asking you to do, can you submit 1 or 2 paragraphs not super long, like 300 words, it doesn't have to be huge, typed to tell me why you made the choices you did. So if I was doing a comic strip of Pretty Howtown, I would say, I decided to do a comic strip because this poem is very divided by stanza. It gives little snapshots of this guy's life at different points in his timeline. And so I want each of those squares to represent that different snapshot of his life. Does that make sense? You kind of just walk me through your thought process in this paragraph. And then if you borrow pictures from other places like Google, just make sure that you put a URL like at the bottom of your page so I can know where it came from. That way we make sure we're not like stealing someone's work. And then go ahead and submit it to Canvas as a Word doc or PDF, PowerPoint, Google Doc file, whatever works best for you. Just make sure not to use Pages because I can't access Pages because for some reason Canvas hates it. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm really excited to see your guys' submissions for this. Honestly, this is my favorite project for the entire quarter because you guys always make awesome stuff. So check that out. Do the Poetry Made Visual assignment. The final thing this week is we are heading toward midterms. We have a little while. We're not taking it till mid next week. But if you want to get a head start on that, you can start with the study guide. That's going to be for you in the modules tab. So if you go to our class, this video is taking longer than most videos do because I got too excited about the visual. Sorry about that, guys, but also not sorry because it's amazing. So in the modules here, if you kind of scroll down into our modernism section, I do have some stuff for the midterm. Here we go. There's the modernism study guide right there. I told you it was there. It's there. We're all so happy. So this study guide will help you remember all the poems we worked through, remember their topics, different techniques they used, any other tidbits we want to have. And so you can just go through. I filled out the first two as an example, Glaspell's work and Frost's work, specifically The Road Not Taken. And then you're just going to go through and fill out the columns for each of our major assignments we've done so far. This will really help you get through all of our information, refresh it before we head into our midterm, which I will talk about next Monday. So good stuff coming our way. Reach out with any questions, guys. Have a great week. Have fun being creative and visual, and I will talk to you soon.